Hi, this is Chris Newman. More investigation of the treaty. And I'm only doing this because there's been so much misinformation spread on this topic that it's time that we get a grip on the fundamentals, and it's not that difficult. What's all the fuss about? What do you think all the fuss is usually about? Why are they worried about the treaty? The media, the politicians, the bankers, the treatyists. No one seems worried about Captain Cook's map of 1780, for example. I mean, now we've got satellite imaging. We can just adjust Captain Cook's map by, 30 metres here and 20 metres there and just worry about each little piece of it. But no one seems to give a damn. It's a very accurate, very useful map. But we can say, oh no, it's not precise or sharp enough for modern times. I can assure you that sailors using Captain Cook's map in 1780 up till the present time will have no trouble in a fundamental sense of orienting themselves around what he identified as New Zealand, not Aotearoa. So why is there all this fuss about the treaty, a document that came 60 years after Captain Cook's map? Another document, and yet it's not a very complicated thing at all. Well, a wise man once said, follow the money trail. So maybe there's money involved in here. Maybe there's plunder. Maybe there's power and resources, lands, property and assets at stake. Now that's what gets people going. But you may say, does the original treaty, the one in Maori, the original one that everybody signed, have anything about lands and estates and forests and fisheries and Maori in partnership with the Crown? No. I have proved this substantially in other videos. No way. Those words, those concepts are not in the treaty that was authorised by Captain Hobson in Maori and which the people signed. We do know that something funny happened over at Port Waikato because they didn't have the right enough paper to sign on, and the overflow signatures were taken on an English document. But that's not the issue. Follow the trail of history. Lord Normanby, 1839, gave his instructions. January, February 1840, late January. The notes for the treaty were drawn up by a small group of people, very knowledgeable in these matters. The English treaty draft by James Busby, translated by the Williams missionaries who had been here 17 years, bilingual, very good with the use of the language, into Treaty. 512 chiefs signed it. That's the guts of the business. 1860, the Kohimarama Conference, many of the chiefs, 120 who attended, had previously signed Treaty in 1840. They ratified Treaty, including full recognition that they had ceded their sovereignty. In 1869, T.E. Young, the government translator, did an English translation of the treaty. So we have the draft and the English translation. They line up perfectly. I can just draw a little arrow here, da-da, da-da, and those two are pretty well word for word the same business. So therefore, we've got a straight line and we know the truth of the matter. What went funny? What's all the fuss about? Well, a man called Freeman was hanging around here. He was a secretary to Captain Hobson. And Freeman wrote on February the 7th, after the original treaty signing, made his own treaty. I'm calling it the brain fart treaty because there's no point in being polite about this. It's all something which didn't really have any reality in it, so it just went pop in his head. But unfortunately for all of us these days, it had lands and estates and forests and fisheries. He wrote some elaborate idea of what this was all about because he was not a Maori speaker, he was not involved in constitutional documents, he was just an onlooker, a bystander as it were. However, his brain fart treaty written after this one, so it's neither a draft nor a translation, was what was incorporated or enshrined in the legislation of 1975, the Treaty of Waitangi Act, and of course endorsed in the 1986 amendment to the Treaty of Waitangi Act that helped set up the Waitangi Tribunal and the statutory or legalistic concept of a Maori person. That Maori person thing does not exist in Te Tiriti. It mentions chiefs and tribes, all the people of New Zealand, and of course Queen Victoria, Captain Hobson. Those are the people, not statutory persons. So we now understand how simple and clear this is, and how this was a bit of a wobbly thing, drifting around. It turned up in lots of places because it was an English, people thought it was an English translation, but now we know from the real English translation and the original draft that it's no such thing. However, when you mention lands and estates, forests and fisheries and put them in legislation and create a thing called the Waitangi Tribunal, the game is open for plunder. Plunder means bucks. It means power, money, resources like lands, property, assets that are all part of the property of the people of New Zealand. And I'm going to write us here because we are the ones being plundered. And this is very interesting because we are the ones that are never spoken about. We are the ones who are being abused. Our good nature, our nation, is being abused by these rascals. The treatyists who plunder, and that's their business, monopolise this claims process, and they stand on this legislation which is based on Freeman's brain fart treaty. So you can see the whole thing over this side is a fraud, and they're busy covering it up. And I'm going to show you what they cover it up with. I think I'll use my red pen. Propaganda. Propaganda. Have you ever been subjected to propaganda from the media? That's what all the fuss is about. The propaganda to keep a smokescreen so that the people of New Zealand don't get to know the truth. However, I've just exposed it. I've just pulled the pants off it. The truth is here. Over here are the lies, propped up by the propaganda because there's big money, power, resources at stake, stolen from us, the people of New Zealand, in the name of Maoridom. But people of Maori descent are not getting any benefit from this. They're being ripped off. So at this point, I think you can understand very clearly what all the fuss is about. It's hiding a crime. Thank you. I'm Chris Newman. I'm sure this is going to be a topic that you can discuss with your friends and find many interesting angles from your own experience to validate what's the truth, what's propaganda, why it's going on, and who's benefiting.